15 years ago, a journalist was shot in the heart of Dublin. The case was closed, the killer never found. But nobody knew that the real killer was speaking on television every day, writing in newspapers, even winning awards. So what will you feel when you learn this man's identity? Hello, I'm Connor Walsh, and tonight I'm going to share with you the true face of what is perhaps Ireland's darkest media murder. This audio recording I have reveals the killer that no one has been able to find for 15 years. And I warn you, you will be shocked when you hear this name. On February 23, 2009, at 21:45, journalist Patrick O'Brien was killed with 3 bullets in front of his house in Dublin. The official Gardaí investigation concluded with the case filed as unknown perpetrator, but the truth was nothing like that. The audio recording I'll share with you tonight mysteriously reached my office last week. There was only one note on the recording device. Patrick O'Brien's killer is here. He doesn't need to stay silent anymore. When I first listened to the recording, my breath was taken away, because the voice speaking was someone we all knew very well, someone we saw on RTE every evening, whose interviews we read in the Irish Times, someone some of us even respected. The person speaking in the audio recording is television producer Marcus Fitzgerald, one of the important names in the Irish media world. Yes, you heard right. That Marcus Fitzgerald, the man who has been talking about justice and truth on screens for 15 years. But in this recording I have, Marcus Fitzgerald is completely different. Cold-blooded, calculating, and a killer. At first, I couldn't believe my ears. Was someone doing voice imitation? Maybe this was a fake recording, but when I had technology experts examine it, it was confirmed that the recording was original. The voice analysis results were also clear. This was really Marcus Fitzgerald's voice. The audio recording lasts 47 minutes and contains incredible details. Marcus Fitzgerald is talking to someone I don't recognize in the recording, probably a close friend or partner. And in this conversation, he explains in the finest detail how Patrick O'Brien's murder was planned, why it was committed, and how it was covered up. I want to share with you one of the most striking parts of the recording. Patrick was getting too close. If the documents we had fell into his hands, we would all be ruined. Especially he had found those Dublin Port tender documents. There was no other choice. But which tender? Which documents? Why was Marcus Fitzgerald so scared that he decided to kill a journalist? Patrick O'Brien was researching a major container terminal tender at Dublin Port just before the murder. This tender was related to Ireland's largest port development project. The company that won the tender didn't know there were very dark dealings involved. According to Marcus Fitzgerald's confessions in the audio recording, this tender was won entirely with fake documents. Moreover, the company that won the tender, Atlantic Maritime Holdings, was actually a non-existent phantom company. The real owners were names from the Irish media world. Patrick O'Brien had obtained these fake documents. Moreover, Marcus Fitzgerald was among the names involved in the tender. If this news had come out, not only Marcus but many important names would have been ruined. The most chilling part of the audio recording is the section where the planning of the murder is described. Marcus Fitzgerald says with cold blood, that Tuesday evening he'll go to his house in Rathmines as usual. Camden Street becomes deserted after 21:30. We'll do the job quickly and escape. The CCTV cameras in front of Patrick's house will be broken that day anyway. Yes, you heard right. He said the cameras will be broken, so the security cameras were disabled before the murder. What kind of organization was this? Even worse, Marcus Fitzgerald continues in the recording. We have our men in the Gardaí. They'll close the case as soon as the investigation starts. I'll also give the right information to the media. No one will suspect. These words showed that the murder was not only committed by Marcus Fitzgerald, but that there was a large organization behind it. This organization had men in both the Gardaí and the media. The most detailed part of the audio recording is the section describing the night of the murder. Marcus Fitzgerald tells that night as if narrating a movie. Patrick arrived in front of his house at 2140. In his bag, along with his laptop, were copies of our documents. He was talking on the phone while getting out of the car, probably with his wife Sarah. As he got out of the car and walked towards the door, we went into action. According to Marcus's account, the murder was not committed by one person. There was a team of at least 3 people. One was the gunman, one the driver, and one providing perimeter security. The first bullet hit his shoulder. Patrick fell to the ground, but was still conscious. He looked at us and said, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" The second bullet hit his chest. The third one. At this point, Marcus's voice becomes quieter. Apparently he was suffering from guilt even then. What happened after the murder is perhaps the most surprising part, because according to Marcus Fitzgerald's account, how the case would be closed was planned even before the Gardaí investigation began. Tomorrow morning it will be headlines in all newspapers. Famous journalist killed in the street, we'll say. But as the reason will also say, most likely a robbery attempt. We had taken Patrick's wallet anyway. Indeed, in the news after the murder, the reason for Patrick O'Brien's killing was shown as robbery attempt. The fact that his wallet had been stolen also supported this theory. But the audio recording I have shows that this was a completely fake scenario. The aim was to kill Patrick. The robbery was just camouflage. There's another very interesting detail in the audio recording. The witnesses who gave statements to the Gardaí after the murder were actually fake witnesses. Marcus Fitzgerald says in the recording, "James and Emma weren't there that night, but they'll give statements to the Gardaí. They'll say they saw 2 young people, that they escaped by motorcycle. This will also divert the police in the wrong direction." Indeed, 2 witnesses had given statements at the crime scene that night. These people, named James Murphy and Emma Kelly, had told the Gardaí that 2 young people had escaped by motorcycle. The police had also started searching for 2 motorcycle suspects based on these statements. But now we learn that these witnesses were actually members of Marcus Fitzgerald's organization. They had specifically given false statements to divert the Gardaí in the wrong direction. Perhaps the most disturbing part of the audio recording is the section describing how the media covered up the murder. Since Marcus Fitzgerald was also an important media boss, he could also control how the news would be shaped. Tomorrow morning it will be headlines in all newspapers, Irish Times, Irish Independent, all of them. But we'll write the story with the headline, "Journalist Killed in Street Robbery." We won't mention anything about the subjects Patrick was researching. Indeed, in the days after the murder, no media organization had mentioned Patrick O'Brien's research on the tender issue, as if he had never done that research. Even worse, some newspapers had started making negative news about Patrick's private life, as if they were trying to smear his name even after his death. One of the most important questions that needs to be answered in the audio recording is this: what happened to the documents Patrick O'Brien had obtained? According to Marcus Fitzgerald's explanation, they had also searched Patrick's house in Rathmines after the murder. They had taken his computer, his files, even his phone. There were dangerous files on Patrick's laptop. We deleted them all. We also took the files in his house. Now, he has no evidence left. But this is where things get complicated, because Marcus didn't know that Patrick O'Brien was a very cautious journalist. He kept backup copies of important documents in different places. Towards the end of the audio recording, we hear Marcus Fitzgerald anxiously saying, "But I'm afraid of something." There's a possibility that Patrick hid other backups. If those documents come to light one day, we'll all be ruined. This is exactly where our story connects to the present day. Because last month, Patrick O'Brien's closest friend journalist Claire Thompson found a secret package that Patrick had left with her. In this package, there were all the documents related to that tender. Fake companies, bribery amounts, which politician received how much, everything. Claire Thompson handed these documents over to the prosecutor's office, and now the investigation will restart. So what about Marcus Fitzgerald? What did he do for 15 years? How did he live with this secret? From what we understand from the audio recording, Marcus had lived with regret for years. Especially in recent years, he'd started drinking, fallen into depression. He had started telling the secret to his friends. On the day the recording was made, he was probably completely drunk, because his voice sounds very different, very sad. I see Patrick in my dreams every night. He looks at me and says, "Why did you kill me? I can't stand it anymore. Maybe I should surrender." With this audio recording I have and the documents Claire Thompson found, it's now possible to catch the real killers of Patrick O'Brien's murder. The prosecutor's office called Marcus Fitzgerald for questioning to examine the audio recording, but Marcus Fitzgerald disappeared the day before the call. He only left a note at his house in Galway. "Patrick, forgive me." It's currently unknown where Marcus Fitzgerald is, but thanks to the documents and audio recordings in hand, other accomplices have started to be caught. This murder that couldn't be solved for 15 years wasn't just the death of a journalist. It was also a major blow to Irish media. After Patrick O'Brien was killed, many journalists became afraid to do investigative journalism because they saw that if you target the wrong people, you could even die. As a result, Irish media started to abandon investigative journalism. It gradually started making safer, more superficial news. Patrick O'Brien was 34 years old when he was killed. He left behind his wife Sarah and a 6-year-old daughter Grace. For 15 years, this family wondered who their father's killer was. His daughter Grace is now 21 years old and studying medicine at Trinity College. When she learned the truths about her father, she said, "My father just wanted to write the truth." Learning that he was killed for this is very painful, but at least now the truth has come out. There's another very disturbing detail in the audio recording. Marcus Fitzgerald implies that Patrick O'Brien wasn't the only victim. There were others before Patrick, and there were others after. This business never ends. Each time we find a different reason. These words suggest that other journalists may have been killed in a similar way. The prosecutor's office is now re-examining the files of all journalists killed in the last 20 years. There's another very interesting detail in the audio recording. Marcus Fitzgerald says they were also running a similar operation in Cork. That journalist in Cork was also too curious, but we handled him more easily. We made it look like a traffic accident. These words suggest that the death of journalist David O'Connor, who died in a traffic accident in Cork in 2011, might also be suspicious. The Gardaí are now re-examining that file too. Marcus Fitzgerald's confessions suggest the Irish operation was part of something much larger. London wants us to expand operations, similar setups in Scotland and Wales. They're very pleased with our results here. The recording implies this wasn't just an Irish conspiracy, but part of an international network of media manipulation and journalist elimination. Towards the end of the recording, Marcus Fitzgerald becomes increasingly emotional, revealing what finally broke his resolve. When Patrick's daughter graduated last month, she thanked her father in her speech, said he taught her to always fight for truth, even when it's dangerous. I couldn't sleep for weeks after watching that video. It seems that seeing Patrick O'Brien's daughter honor her father's memory had triggered the guilt that led to these confessions. The audio recording ends with Marcus Fitzgerald making a chilling prediction. "If this recording ever gets out, they'll come for me too. But maybe it's time." Maybe Patrick's death should mean something. Maybe the truth should finally win. His words proved prophetic. Within days of the recording surfacing, other members of the organization began turning themselves in, afraid of being eliminated by their former associates. This audio recording that emerged 15 years later showed the true face of one of Ireland's biggest media murders. Marcus Fitzgerald and his gang had not only killed a journalist, but had also intimidated an entire media sector. But now the truth has come out. Patrick O'Brien's family will finally see justice, and Irish media will be stronger to avoid such an attack again. Those who want to listen to the complete audio recording can click the link in the description section, but I warn you, there is very heavy content. At the end of tonight, not only was a murder solved, a dark page of Irish media was also illuminated. May Patrick O'Brien's soul rest in peace. Justice was delayed, but it came. Our days day go ribe a anam.